First time I would say this season I've actually been tempted to save this until tomorrow morning because I'm sort of worried I'm going to go a bit Arsenal fan TV on this one because that is just a pitiful, pathetic disgrace of a performance, man. Like, seriously, I've you'd hope that sort of thing was out of our system somewhat, right? I know people are always going to have their reservations, about Lloris or about Dyer, but even the pair of them, you sort of think they've got that shit out of their system. I mean, just woeful, absolutely woeful. I couldn't even comment really on the second half because it was such a non-entity. There was just nothing to it, nothing to that game at all. Didn't feel like there was any real fight there, any real kind of desire, nothing. And do you know what? After their fairly disappointing result for Arsenal this afternoon, that's just going to cheer all their fans up as well. So that's another little kicker. But do you know what? I don't give a fuck about them at the moment, to be honest. It's just, that's just like rank Tottenham of old, late stage managerial kind of tenure shit, which is alarming, man. It's alarming. I get that the lads are tired probably. There's a few sort of leggy performances out there, but it was just nothing. It didn't feel like there was a plan there. This is the thing. Like, people are going to disagree with me about this. People who are probably more pro Conte than I am. And honestly, I know, like, jokes aside, I'm not anti Conte as such. As I was talking with John Bass about this in the last one, but I'm definitely not pro him. I'm not in love with him. I never have been. I've been consistent on that. And I know we can always say, well, you can't account for Lloris with that first error and just with his kicking all game, and you can't account for Dyer. But of course you can fucking account for them, man. That's his job. That's his fucking job. He knows these players have got a wobble in them. He knows that they can be a liability. So why do you build a system that is so heavily reliant on players like that? It's the same shit we were saying with Mourinho. Same thing again. It's the same questions we're asking. But again, we're not allowed to make these comparisons. I'm actually getting quite aerated today, aren't I? Fucking hell. It's just nothing there. We've regressed so much from the tail end of last season. When we sort of had the bit between our teeth and it seemed like everybody suddenly screwed their heads on and we looked like a serious outfit. No idea where that's gone, man. Like, even the games that we've won this year, right? And we've said this all throughout the year. I've said it on here. I've said it on the pods with other people. And you listen to any of the other pods. Listen to all of them. You listen to Fighting Cock, View from the Lane, Extra Inch. Every single one of them. The same point has been made all year. Are we actually good? Are we not? I can't really tell, but great, we're getting results. And is that enough? Is that enough to sort of keep this momentum? Because it doesn't build momentum, right? It doesn't feel like there's momentum there. Even when we have been getting results, even when we have been kind of pushing towards the top end of the table, keeping pace with Arsenal and City, it still hasn't really felt like we've got proper momentum. It's been, to me, the whole caveat has always been, well, we're doing this so far and we're kind of playing beneath ourselves at the moment. So when we actually start, when we click, the infamous clicking that we hear so much about, when that happens, it's going to be grand. But it seems like the click has, whatever, been some sort of inverse click. It's not been good the past, and it's Old Trafford away. You can get right, you can understand that, but like this today, man, it's an abject performance. It's really, really appalling. It's really disappointing. Really disappointing. It just didn't feel like we ever showed up. I can't look at that and think like, oh, you know what? Well, at least we had this spell of pressure. Fuck all, man. For the whole game. Like, Newcastle got their goals and they could just... But the thing is, they didn't even just shut the game out. They kept trying to go for more. It felt like they were 2-0 up. We went into the start of the second half and we carried on playing the same way. We didn't go after them. We didn't harry them. We didn't press them. didn't look like we were chasing the game. Again, it looked like we were happy to sit back and wait for chances to exploit whatever. But come on, man. I know they're on the up. I know they've been in a good run of form. I know they're backed by an oil state now, and they're going to be as good as Manchester City in not long. But they're not there yet. Like, it's still Newcastle at home. We should be doing better than that. Not good performance. Not good at all. What also doesn't help with that game is that every time they kept talking about Fabian Schär, they kept saying share on Sky Sports. So I'm just thinking about, would you believe in life after love? For the whole game. It's just playing in a loop. In my head, I just kept shouting out, I can hear something inside me say. Not the time or the place of humour, is it? Everybody's got to be very serious right now. No joking about anything. Just shouting and screaming about something. I feel like I've gotten that out of my system now. My moment, my little wobble. It's just annoying though, isn't it? Really annoying performance. Just going around in a loop, aren't I? Let's load up the player. The starting 11. Tottenham. It's not helping that my internet's not working at the moment, so I'm having to do it on my phone. Tottenham and Newcastle. Lineups. Right, Hugo Lloris. I mean, quite clearly the worst game he's had for us in a long time, and it's definitely, it doesn't take away from anything that I've said about Hugo and that I feel about Hugo. Great club servant, fantastic on his day, but like we really are getting to this point now where it's like we got to start looking for a successor now, because you know it feels like he's regressing again now. It feels like he had his Brighton arm injury, suddenly hit the best form of his life. I think last season genuinely was the best I've ever seen Hugo Lloris. And then this year, it feels just like, again, a bit of another, dud Lloris season where he just doesn't seem to be able to keep focused at all in games. I mean, the weird thing is he had that amazing game against Manchester United. But that's Lloris to a T, right? Reflex saves. Someone's charging through on him and sort of twats the ball, like that Luke Shaw volley. That's kind of bread and butter for Lloris. It sounds ridiculous, but that's what Lloris has always done best. The most incredibly difficult reflex saves. Guys like a cat, unbelievable. But when it's just these like brain melts he has every now and again. Like it honestly, it almost felt embarrassing to me that we were appealing for a free kick for that. Lloris just ran into Callum Wilson. And I know he sort of moved his arm a bit and it kind of felt a bit dodgy, but it was still 50-50 at best. And, what's he doing in that position, man? Like, it's just really, really dodgy stuff. Longley, horror show today, I thought, honestly. I thought he got skinned time and time again. I thought the second goal was somewhere between... But yeah, people wanted to exonerate Sessegnon. Sessegnon could have still done better. A bit of a hospital pass from Lloris, but still, his recovery on it after he'd been taken was pathetic. Pitiful attempt to win the ball back. And then Longley just got absolutely done as well by Almiron. And then Lloris arguably probably could have done better for the second goal as well, maybe, but probably a bit harsh. Still a tight angle at which Almiron got it in from. But yeah, I thought it was a stinky game from Longley tonight. Like I said, I just think he got skinned constantly. I don't think he liked the pressure really, and that's one of the things I was hoping for from him, that he was the player that would be able to be somewhat press resistant, but didn't feel that way tonight. Felt like his passing was off. Just a smelly performance. Didn't like it at all. Eric Dyer, similar. I don't know what's happened to him the past few games. Maybe it's since I've been calling him out. I just feel like a fucking jinx sometimes, As soon as I hit this point where I'm like, you know what, he's actually kind of back to his best now, and he's going to build from here and actually be an almost undroppable centre-back. I look at the past sort of couple of games. I mean, that United game, he was a disgrace in. He was horrific in that. And I don't think he was miles better again tonight. I don't know what's gotten into his head. I don't know if he's just read one particularly shitty comment on Instagram or something, or, he's still struggling to get Spotlass off the ground properly. But something's in his head right now, and he is not looking good whatsoever. Really disappointing because he's, really worked hard, it seems, to build himself back up again, get himself back into a good place, and he just seems to be undoing it at the moment. Davinson Sanchez, funnily enough, is, considering I thought he'd be the one that would be getting the most of my eye, I thought he was okay. Like, I couldn't really call out much glaringly wrong that Davinson Sanchez did. I think, as is usual with Davinson Sanchez, which is so annoying for like a pretty tall guy, he's awful in the air. He doesn't like those balls that sort of bounce about in the box. It's almost like he never seems to really be able to judge the bounce of a ball. But he did okay. He's got Emerson alongside him, who, fuck me, right? There's something to be said about him in a minute. But yeah, fine. Very Times New Roman performance from Davinson Sanchez. The least bad of the three, I would say. And that doesn't say much. But there you go. Ryan Sessegnon, man. Like, I've been saying for the past few games, I want to see him back in the team and this sort of thing. And I've always had my reservations about him. I've still always said, like, I think there's a player there, but he needs to kind of get out of his own head. He needs to start to kind of back up a bit of this good faith. Because I think there has been a huge amount of good faith from him, from the club and from the fans as well. I think everybody has been rooting for Ryan Sessegnon. And it really is starting to feel like today is the type of performance that I'm starting to watch and think, like, maybe he's just not got it. Maybe he's just not that guy. Maybe he's just not at the level required, because it just seems like he's just silly when he's got the ball. He never takes a second to just think. There was a moment earlier on in the game where we'd had a nice sort of little break and Skip got the ball outside the box and squared it to him. And he just twatted it straight into the first defender. He had plenty of space, plenty of time. He could have tried to make something more of the chance, but he just got it, panicked, and just hit the ball straight into the defender. And yeah, we got a corner from that, but, it's not great. But he didn't do that deliberately. He couldn't think of what to do with it. And I think we're getting to the point now where we're like, he's not that young, He's not... I don't know. I think people have been very patient with him, man. And we're getting to the time now where we want to start to see a bit of a return, because he occupies such an important position for us. And you could probably say that this Conte system is built on our wing backs, and Sessegnon's got to step up, man. He has to. I still think there's a player there, but whether it's a player for a team that has visions on winning a Premier League, as Lyle Thomas tweeted, saying that the thought within the club is that within the next 2 years we can usurp Liverpool and Manchester City and win the title. Fucking hell, then. Like, come on. Emerson Royale. What Antonio Conte sees in him I get it, right? Doherty is not a world beater. He isn't. I know this, right? But how Antonio Conte can still see Emerson Royale and think he is a better option than Doherty, which really isn't saying much, is astounding to me. It's astounding. I don't know if Jed Spence has called Conte a fucking terrible name in training or something, because I don't know what that lad has to do to get some more minutes with these two in front of him, because pitiful from Emerson Royal today, defensively and offensively. Mistakes all over the place, cutting people down. I thought he was fairly lucky. On another day, that Joe Linton challenge is a penalty, right? I'm not saying that that's the right decision. I'm just saying it was a pretty rash challenge in the box. He was kind of lucky that it just didn't really transpire that way. But you ask referees that question, and I don't know. Just feels like he's gone into that Aurier space a bit, because I just don't trust him at all. Every time you see him get the ball, we're advancing down the pitch, you see it get played out to Royale, and you're just like, nothing's going to come of this now. I know it won't. And you wonder how much the rest of the players feel that way. It's awful. Bentancur, I think he tried his best today. I think Bentancur, he's up against Bruno, who is arguably the best fucking centre midfielder in the country at the moment. Obscene player, absolutely obscene. I would do anything to have him at Tottenham, but there you go. I'm just glad he didn't sign for Arsenal. But Bentancur, his energy is great. His energy levels are great. He seems so much more dynamic. He seems so much more fit, physically agile since he's come to Spurs, and I guess training under Conte, and I guess under Ventrone as well. We probably have a lot to thank the late Ventrone for on that one. But yeah, Bentancur, he's a lovely footballer, lovely player. Didn't do much wrong today. Some of his passing was a little off, but he was one of the few players I thought today that was at least kind of trying his best to make something happen to stop Newcastle from doing what they could do. I'm happy we've got him. Yves Bissouma, just don't know. Doesn't seem very confident. His passing's pretty wayward. I think he gets just kind of bypassed pretty easily. It's just so disappointing for a player that we thought would, do real great things here. We've seen him tearing up trees at Brighton over the past few years. He's looked absolutely brilliant, and just doesn't look at the required level. Maybe it'll take a season or so. Maybe it'll be one of those things next season. You'll suddenly be like, great, Bissouma has actually arrived now. He's good. If we look at kind of Højbjerg's level then compared to now, there's a lot to be said for time, patience, and whatever. So we don't need to make any rash judgments on Bissouma right now, right? He's still a young player. He hasn't been playing with us for long. Hopefully he'll come into his own a bit, but right now he just looks way off it to me, which is disappointing. And I imagine it's disappointing for Conte as well. He's wanting to sign players that are plug and play. Do you know what I mean? Ready to go right now. And it feels like maybe the only one of those we've got is Fraser Forster, who is a backup goalkeeper, and you would, play him in Carabao Cup games or whatever. And probably Richarlison, who we can't make space for at the moment to play in his preferred position. So it's tough. Oliver Skipp, thought he started the game pretty nicely. Happy to see Skipp there. It's a shame not to see Højbjerg there. Hopefully he's not too injured or anything like that. Won't be out for too long. But Skippy, he seems like a natural replacement for Højbjerg. Very similar player. I wouldn't advocate dropping Højbjerg for Skipp right now at all. But I was happy to see Skipp playing. I do like him. I think he's a real player there. It's just such a shame he got injured. And I hope it doesn't turn out to be another Harry Winks, where Harry Winks, I think we revised history, but I think for a time Harry Winks was a fine young player and had a pretty glittering career ahead of him, but just kept getting injuries at really bad times and stunted his development. And I really hope similar thing doesn't happen to Skipp, because I think there's a real player there. But yeah, nice to see him getting some more minutes. I think he faded a bit in the second half, but his fitness and his match sharpness won't be fully there yet. So don't think we need to make any sort of rash decisions there, much like with Basuma, give it a bit of time and we'll see where he's at. Just happy to see him there, happy to see him involved again. I like him. Yeah, it's just a shame. It's a shame he's playing against a pretty kind of dynamic, combative midfield in Newcastle. It's a bit of a baptism of fire when you've been out for however many months, sort of injured, struggling for fitness and everything like that. Sonny, I thought he started the game really brightly, really nicely. I was hoping, obviously, but you know what I mean. I was hoping that one of those early shots of his was going to be like one of his trademark kind of looping shots from outside the box that goes into the top corner where you see the keeper reaching for it and not getting there. But to no avail. Again, I think he faded in the second half, but I think he is really leggy. I think he's one of the players that's really leggy. But the funny thing is, in terms of the early season concerns about Son, where he couldn't seem to trap the ball, he didn't seem to have his confidence in shooting, I don't think he's in that place anymore. I do think he's kind of back at it a bit, but still, his fitness is an issue. But he's playing every game. He is getting a little bit older. I still don't think that's fully a thing, but his kind of playing style, his position, it requires a lot of energy, a lot of explosive energy, and he can be forgiven for being knackered when he plays literally every single game for us. So, what more can you say? Harry Kane, another goal from today. Another goal closer to Jimmy Greaves' record. Another, what is it now? 10 in 11? Something ridiculous like that. Maybe 10 in 12. It's obscene. It's an obscene season he's having, but pretty milquetoast game. Nothing really to shout about, I didn't think, today. I don't think he sort of had the best opportunities sort of provided for him. Like I say, I just think we lost that midfield battle in Newcastle. I don't think we really made much meaningful. I think when you're kind of relying on Sessegnon, Jesus Christ, what the fuck's happened there? Jesus Christ, scared the shit out of me. Some video playing in a pop-up in the background. Jesus. When you're relying on Sessegnon and Royale to kind of pass stuff to you, it's not happening, is it? I don't know, folks. That's it's horrible game. I can't really be asked to talk about the subs, to be honest, because they're pretty, uneventful. Lucas Moura's just so out of match practice. Looks like he can't even fucking dribble around anybody anymore. Don't even know what his, what the point of him is, to be honest, at the moment. Just awful. Just an awful. I think, the thing that's just so annoying about us, right, is that again, it feels like, and it's felt like this basically ever since Pochettino left, that the first sign of trouble, we never just dig deep, And this is one of those things, like my mate Dan, who's probably listening and having a good fucking laugh at this as well, he likes to, I don't know why he's always listened to this podcast. Maybe he's just been a supportive friend, maybe that's what it's about. But he is a Newcastle fan. And he was saying before this, I'm a bit worried, Spurs are a bit of a wounded animal after that United game the other night. I was just like, you know what though, mate? Like, we're not a normal club like that. And we're just not. I'm sure anyone else would agree with me, right? We can say it of most other teams, right? You see them come off the back of a bad result. You see someone like Liverpool, right? You know how horrible their form has been, and we've got them coming up. You just know they rebound against us. You just know it. You know it already. It's so obvious that that's what happens. It's so obviously written in the fucking stars of hell that sort of stuff happens to Tottenham. But we are not that team. And this is what I was saying to Dan. He was like, oh, you're a wounded... No, mate. We're never the wounded animal. We don't do that. Tottenham, we either show up or we don't. And there's no rhyme or reason to it. And this is what's so infuriating about us. And it's why it's so infuriatingly impossible to really draw adequate conclusions or make predictions about Tottenham. Because we are just that club. And I'm sure there's probably a few other clubs, but I don't know many other clubs at the level that we're at that one day just show up or another day just don't. And there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to that. We can even be in great form, playing really fucking well, right? We've built supposed momentum. But for whatever reason, we can just sometimes just go into a game and be like, no, we're not going to play today. And our heads are going to drop and we're not going to be able to pass to each other. And that's that. And it's just bizarre. It's bizarre. And it's not a Conte thing. It's not a Mourinho thing. It's not a Nuno thing. I mean, we can't really draw many conclusions from Nuno other than that he was shit, really, and it was just the wrong sort of man for the job. But I mean, under Redknapp, it was the same. The only time I've really not seen it like this was Pochettino. That was the closest I've seen us to having consistency. At least 16, 17, 17, 18. And then obviously it started to tail off massively in 18, 19, other than in the Champions League. That was kind of the one time I think I've seen us probably performing like an actual real team. A team that kind of you can draw conclusions from and stuff like that. Again, at the moment, it just seems like we just sometimes show up or we just sometimes don't. And my biggest worry about all of this with Conte, with this system and the way we're playing is that we are too reliant on players. We're playing a system and we are too reliant on players that we know are probably the weakest part of our team. I feel like I'm banging my head against a wall. I'm repeating myself from the beginning, but I'm repeating myself over what I've been saying for the past 2-3 fucking years under Nuno and under Mourinho as well, that we're so heavily dependent upon our defence and also heavily dependent on Son and Kane. And something's got to change, right, man? Like, because it is starting to get worrying. Like we sort of joked about the fact that we only started to look good last year under him because we had Kulusevski firing. Kulusevski suddenly looking like the best young player in world football. We've signed sort of the star boy, and fucking hell, how did we manage to pull this one off? But without him, we just look bereft of ideas, man. We look awful going forwards. Even like games we've won this year, really. Southampton, yeah, okay, good game that. Even the Leicester, do you know the mad thing is, even the Leicester game that we won, what, 6-2, 6-3, 6-2, I think? We weren't fucking good in that. Like, we won that game 3-2, and then Son came on and had a point to prove and scored a freakish hat-trick. And I think you can say that. People will say, oh, you can't say that. You're just trying to say that to prove your point. But I feel completely emboldened to say that right now because I still am not seeing us play well. I'm not seeing us advance the ball well. I'm not seeing any decent kind of real sustained passages of play. I'm not seeing any kind of patterns of play. These automations that I keep hearing about, keep getting belittled by people. Told her, oh, you just can't see it. You just don't have your eyes open to what's going on. I don't see it. You know, and I think it's 6 of one, half dozen of another. I don't think the blame lies entirely with him. I completely get it. Yeah, he doesn't have the players to do exactly as he wants, but also he is supposedly a world-class, elite, top 5 in the game manager. He's got to be able to adapt. He has to be able to adapt, man, because, you know, this is horror. It's horrible to watch days like today. Miserable, awful football. Sitting back at home against Newcastle. Come on, man. Like, I know we want to believe in this guy, and I know we want to fucking win something big. And I really do. The thing is, it's not like, you know, often you get tainted as like, oh, you'd rather your opinion was right than Spurs win. No, of course I fucking wouldn't. And anybody, you've listened to, I'm sure plenty of you have been listening to me for the past fucking decade now doing this podcast, talking about this stuff. You know that in my heart, the centre of my onion, everyone remember that? Is it Carol Ann Duffy, the poem about onions, people with different layers? You know, at the centre of that, the core of my onion is, I am going to be happy when Tottenham win. I don't care about my agenda. I don't care about my opinion. I'm going to be happy when Tottenham win. Just outside of that, the next layer outside of that is I'm going to be happy when Tottenham play well and just entertain me and take me away from the fucking misery of the real world. You know, you want to enjoy it. You want to have fun, right? And if we're not getting that centre part, the winning bit, you want the next layer, which is at least enjoying the football, right? This at the moment, right, losing games like today and just the manner in which we did it is awful. It's awful. And I don't know, there's not much more to say to it than that really, is there? You know, we can speculate all we want about the effect of this system, what it has on players' morale, about the anxiety. We don't know that at the end of the day. We don't know that. All we can comment on really is what we see in front of us, you know. Conte's like body language and his thoughts to Sky Sports ahead of the game, they didn't exactly like scream confidence or anything. It didn't really scream like joy or happiness or whatever, harmony in the club. It feels weird again. And I get it. I think it's fair. It was pointed out to me the other week, you know, he's literally just lost like a very good friend of his. And that probably is something to remind myself of, you know, and I get it. And anyone else, you know, is when you sort of see his dour demeanour and stuff, he is a pretty dour guy anyway. And also he is struggling with this like immense personal tragedy. So that's a fair point. But it's still, you know, it still makes it hard to watch. And you do, I don't know, maybe there's more in that. Maybe the club are feeling that. Maybe the players are feeling that. Who knows? You know, at the end of the day, I'm just a bloke on a microphone who's annoyed that my team's just lost a football match and I'm moaning about it afterwards. If anyone else can find any solace in that, great. I'll happily keep doing these for those people that want to listen. I apologise to anyone whose parade I'm pissing on with this sort of thing. Don't mean to be negative, you know, I'm just sharing my opinion on all of this stuff. As I keep saying, I don't feel that I am a negative fan. I feel that ultimately I always want what's best for Tottenham. But this is a post-match reactive. That was a miserable game. It's miserable weather. And I'm cold and miserable. So whatever. I'll be cheerful. I've got a good guest on Monday's show coming up. So got that to look forward to. If you have somehow managed to enjoy that, please do leave a rating, leave a review on your podcast platform of choice. Please as well, it always helps if you could retweet the tweet with the pod in it, share it, whatever. Much appreciated. Be great. Again, thanks to everybody who is supporting the show via the Buy Me a Coffee website. There's a link on the Twitter bio. No pressure. If you can't, fine. That's all good. But yeah, thanks to everybody that has done. Fucking hell. Come on, Tottenham, please.